Father, and the Holy Spirit. Now I want to talk about healing and Exodus. The concept of a new Exodus runs through the book of Isaiah. As you read the book of Isaiah, you're going to see all these Exodus themes of a desert being transformed into a fertile land, themes of God being close to his people and saving his people. You're going to see themes of healing where blind are healed and lame people are healed. And so within the whole book of Isaiah, there's a very profound concept of spiritual healing, something to look for. And in talking about this Exodus theme, this new Exodus in Isaiah, we're going to go to chapter 35. So we're going to look at a couple verses in chapter 35, and just to kind of consider this theme. And so when you read the New Testament, the writers of the New Testament, the authors of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they often assume that we know some of these themes. So if you don't know the theme, you're going to miss certain things in the New Testament. And what's really beautiful is you'll see Jesus doing things where a ideal aspect of the Messiah is recalled from the Old Testament. And often there's no explanation. If you know the background, you know it. If you don't know the background, you miss it. And so Isaiah speaks about this new Exodus. He personifies Israel's complete restoration as a new Exodus. Now, in order to have a new Exodus, you need to have a couple things. You need to have a new Moses, you need to have a new Passover, and you need to have new manna. Now, of course, who's the new Moses? Jesus. And the new Passover and the new manna are the Eucharist. Okay? So if you understand that, you go, oh my gosh, new Exodus. And when you read the Gospels, you see Jesus being personified as something of a new Moses. Isn't that amazing? And so take the Sermon on the Mount. You guys are familiar with the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, right? Well, you know that Moses went up Mount Sinai to receive the commandments of God in Exodus 19, 20, and 24. And Jesus goes up the Sermon on the Mount, and he gives his disciples the Beatitudes, and then thereby begins his ministry. So there's a good example right there. But Jesus does a lot of healing miracles. Look closely at the miracles that he does. What does he do? He heals those who are blind. He heals those who are deaf. He heals those who can't talk, who are mute. He heals those who are lame, who can't walk, who are paralyzed. And so let's look at how maybe the prophet Isaiah spoke about this when he spoke about this concept of a new Exodus. Well, guess what? He did. He brings it up a lot in his book. Let's go to chapter 35 and look at one of the most famous sections right here. Okay? And if you go to 35, verses 1 through 6, we're just going to read a couple verses. Notice all the Exodus themes here. Notice the theme of a desert being converted into like a new paradise. Verse 1, chapter 35, verse 1. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it. So Lebanon was considered to be a very fertile place. And here's Isaiah saying the desert's going to be like Lebanon. It's going to be completely fertile. Look at what he says. The majesty of Carmel and Sharon. Carmel and Sharon were very fertile places in the north of Israel. They shall see the glory of the Lord, the majesty of our God. So Israel, when they were in the desert, they literally saw the glory of God come down upon Mount Sinai like fire in Exodus 19. Exodus 13 and also Exodus 40 tells us that they literally saw the glory of God, a pillar of fire during the night, a pillar of cloud during the day. They shall see the glory of our God. Verse 3, strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. With the recompense of God, he will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap like a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing for joy. For the waters shall break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. The haunt of jackals shall become a swamp. The grass shall become reeds and rushes. And so, if you look closely at what Isaiah is saying, he's using all this imagery of how God was present with his people during the Exodus. He saved his people during the Exodus. They saw his glory during the Exodus. He said to them, I, the Lord your God, am your healer in Exodus 15:26. And he's using all this imagery and saying the glory of God is going to be revealed in Israel. He's going to renew his people. And then the eyes of the blind are going to be open. The ears of the deaf are going to be unstopped. The tongue of the lame is going to be able to talk. The one who's paralyzed is going to be able to walk. And when you look at the Gospels, just look at the miracles of Jesus. Look closely at them and look at the people going, they're trying to put it together. Every miracle that Jesus does is a manifestation of who he is. It's a revelation of the very person of Christ. And you can just see the people saying again and again, every time he does a miracle, who is this? Who is this? Because they're starting to see this renewal happening. And it's possible that Isaiah's readers, his first readers, when they came back from exile, right around 517 BC and rebuilt the temple, that maybe they saw this in a very spiritual sense initially. That could be the original context. They read this as they were coming back from exile. They saw it in a spiritual sense. But then when Christ comes and they see all these things happening, they would have been drawn to go right back to Isaiah 35 and say, look at this. All these things that Isaiah talks about, and we see this man, Jesus of Nazareth, doing these things. Do you see what I'm getting at? It begs the question. It begs the question. The Gospels never say, everybody go to Isaiah and look at this. No, the Gospels, they just tell us, here's what Jesus is doing. Most of the time, they're just telling us, and we have to figure it out. So, look at what Isaiah talks about. And the concept that you want to remember is new Exodus. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.